I'm Laura Ingraham, and this is the Ingraham Angle from a Washington on edge tonight. Now, I'm going to say this very bluntly. With their refusal to forthrightly, unequivocally condemn these terroristic tactics of their activist Democrat base, the Democrats, the White House, they're putting the lives of Supreme Court justices in jeopardy. Yes, I mean it, in jeopardy. Now, a party that spent the past 16 months branding the GOP as a bunch of insurrectionists, they're now carrying out, by proxy, an insurrection of their own against the federal judiciary.
We got to be a menace to our enemies, and our enemies is anybody that's attacking our reproductive freedoms.
We will not turn back! Bless us! We are weary! We are mad as hell! Extremists? We've heard enough from the extremists, and we're tired of it.
Of course, the criticisms of the opinion are dishonest constitutionally and fraudulent factually. The abortion issue is merely returned to the states. We talked about this over the last few nights. And that is where the voters of those states will then determine the outcome for abortion. It might be regulated, it might be outlawed, it might be allowed in certain cases, or in the first trimester it might be banned. So it's not going to be a one-size-fits-all coast to coast. But the left doesn't want the voters to have a say, and they don't care about facts or principles. For them, that leak of the draft opinion itself, orchestrated and disseminated as it was, it's meant to terrorize, not to influence. Think about this. Why would someone leak what was a 3-month-old draft opinion that was already in some form or another coming out probably in June anyway? And tonight, though, given everything I've seen, everything I know about the court and its inner workings from the time I clerked, I'm going to say that I believe this leak was done with the goal of stoking violence against the conservative justices primarily on the court. In other words, the goal to force a change in the court's makeup before the November election. Sounds nefarious. I know it sounds like a totally horrifying prospect. But those who believe that dismembering third trimester babies is somehow a sacred right protected in the Constitution? Could those people very well be capable of rationalizing other insidious acts? Now, why aren't politicians in both parties speaking out against what is an obvious effort to interfere with or intimidate the judicial process? Now, remember what Biden promised us? Remember on his inauguration day?
Today, on this January day, my whole soul is in this, bringing America together, uniting our people, uniting our nation. We can treat each other with dignity and respect. We can join forces, stop the shouting, and lower the temperature.
Did he see what was happening in front of the court or in New York, or is he any of that, or is he just tuned out? So where are Biden's calming words now?
Do you think the progressive activists that are now planning protests outside some of the justices' houses are extreme?
Peaceful protest? No. Peaceful protest is not extreme.
This activist posted a map with the home addresses of the Supreme Court justices. Is that the kind of thing this president wants to help your side make their point?
Look, I think the president's view is that there's a lot of passion, a lot of fear, a lot of sadness from many, many people across this country about what they saw in that leaked document. We obviously want people's privacy to be respected.
That's it. Nothing about going to people's homes. We want their privacy respected. Spell it out for us. What's going on? President Biden and his party have whipped up the ugliest radicals in their base. And they give lip service to privacy. Oh, please. As we reported last night, conservative justices' homes, their locations, they've been shared online. Peter Doocy referenced that. And now they're receiving targeted personal phone threats. Justice Alito, author of that draft majority opinion, canceled a scheduled appearance Thursday in Nashville at the Fifth Circuit Judicial Conference. I mean, I don't think he should have. I think he should have gone, and you can't give in to these thugs. Justice Thomas spoke today at the 11th Circuit Judicial Conference. Friends there told me he was unbowed and as friendly as always to all who approached him. But nevertheless, the risk is real to the justice's safety, according to one senator, it's been reported. So if anything should happen to any of the justices or their family members, the blood, the suffering, the pain will be on the hands of the White House and all the senators and pro-abortion fanatics who so recklessly whipped Americans up into this frenzy on false grounds. As usual, the incitement that they accuse others of is what they themselves practice.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.